Hi, I am Melly Bloom and welcome to the Land of Enchantment. And for the purposes of this video, I am not going by Melly Bloom, I'm going by Melissa, which is my real name. This is part 3 of my Ancestry Test series. And where I left off last time was finding out that who I thought was my biological father was not that person. And through some investigation of my own, I was able to locate and narrow it down to 3 brothers. Not saying my mother had sex with 3 brothers, I just knew that one of the 3 brothers had sex with her. So where I had left off completely was I was in talks with Kevin and Dan, and we were trying to figure out the situation. So I sent the first test to Kevin because, as far as I was concerned, he was the most likely suspect, the most likely candidate. This was sometime in, I want to say, July or June, that I had called him. The test had gotten sent to him in July of 2017. He submitted the first test, and of course, we were both nervous. Him, because he had to tell his now wife that he had a child he didn't know about, probably. He had to tell all his children that there was possibly a sibling out there, and Dan did the same with his family. But it was looking like it was Kevin. So over the next few weeks, I got to know Dan and Kevin really well. And it was a very surreal situation. In talking with these 2 men, there were so many things that was just like me. Kevin didn't eat condiments, and neither do I. Dan loved to read, and I love to read, and Dan loves to target practice, and he loves guns. And I know it's not a popular subject right now, but I also love guns, and I love to target shoot. And these people who I've never met in my life, I talked on the phone to, and they sounded like me. And they had, we FaceTime, and there was similar mannerisms of me. And it was just so strange, So, let's fast forward to the end of August. Or the beginning of August is when the test had finally failed, the first test. I was arranged to meet him in September, to go meet Kevin. And now I'm going to do something really screwed up because you've gotten used to the name Kevin, and so had I. But once I got to know him, he says that he doesn't go by the name Kevin, he goes by his middle name David. And that's because his youngest son goes by Kevin. Okay, so now I'm going to start referring to this man as David. So, David's first test, something was wrong with it, and it didn't work. So the meet and greet in September was canceled, ultimately, because we definitely wanted to wait for some sort of DNA test before we had met each other. He was still going to be my uncle, so it wasn't that big of a deal because it's still relatives, okay? So, a second test was sent to him, and he took the test, and then we knew we had another long 4 to 6 weeks to wait. So during that time, we continued to get to know each other. I continued to get to know about my possible brothers and sisters, and my cousin Adrian, who I am coming back to now. We were trying to figure out how Adrian fit into this, as to whether one of them had fathered Adrian, and that's how she was my first cousin. Because, like I said, we knew who Adrian's mother was, but not who her father was. So, it's a little windy here, so if you hear that, just ignore it. So I started doing the same magic for her that I did for myself, which was create this tree from her DNA matches. I was able to separate the matches because I knew that these matches were also related to me. So they were probably who her father was. At least that's what I thought in the beginning. And then we separated the other ones, and that would be her mother's matches. But I was wrong. Adrienne contacted the one person who would know anything about her mother's background, and because I would like to put in here that the man and woman that had adopted Adrienne's mother, the mother was dead, and her grandfather is alive, but it doesn't have all his faculties. So asking him would not solve anything. Okay. So Adrienne contacted her mother's adopted brother and asked him if he had any information about her mother's adoption. And he said, I don't know much other than she was adopted from Kansas, and she has the last name Boone. Now, Boone is Boone is the name of Dan and David. Their last name is Boone. So through this revelation, we have found out that Adrienne's mother was in fact who was related to Dan and David. This is a crazy story, I know. So Dan and David's mother, Edith, and their father, Richard, had given at least one daughter up for adoption, and that was Adrienne's mother. So then we still had the problem of finding Adrienne's father, and I'll get to that at the end of the video. Let me finish my story first. So now we knew that Adrienne's mother, who tragically had died when Adrienne was 5, was my half-aunt, or, just my aunt. And I never got to meet this woman, and she died shortly after I was born. So, that much we knew. And in the meantime, we started to make plans again for me to meet Dan and David. And this time we had set the date for October the 19th, which is my birthday. And I would be turning 42 years old. So that was the goal. And we were hoping the test would come back by then, but it didn't matter. We were going to meet anyways. He was either my uncle or my father. Who knew, right? Okay. So, beginning of September, I believe, we got the test date back, or the test back. And David contacted me and said that he got his test results back, but he didn't know how to read them. He didn't know what he was looking at. So he gave me his username and password, and I logged on. And I sent him the message, congratulations, it's a girl. Because without a name, without anybody telling me anything, I had found my biological father. So David was my father. And it said it right there on Ancestry. It said match. And I'll put up a picture, and it says parent. So David was my parent. So now I will come in with this part of the story, which I had kind of omitted until now. And that was that we kind of already knew that he was my father before the DNA test, because he had remembered the night that I was conceived, that there was a party, and he met my mother for the first time, and they had sex, but, he didn't remember her name. It was like a one-night stand type of thing, but he was pretty sure that her name was Dawn. So we kind of already knew that he was my father. And I'm going to insert a video of me and my father meeting for the first time. My brother Kevin taped the video. He's deaf. He doesn't appear in the video, but now I know that deafness runs in my family, which I had no idea before. But I'm going to insert the video in 3, 2, 1.
Long drive.
Oh, yes.
How you doing, Andy? How you doing?
Okay, so that was the video of me meeting my father for the very first time and him meeting not only his granddaughter for the first time, which is my daughter, but his great grandson for the first time, the one who has ears like him. So we met on my birthday and we went and we spent a lot of quality time together. We went to Branson, Missouri. We had a great time. It was so weird being around these people that sat the same way I did and made similar faces to me and liked the same foods as me. It's so surreal that he lived in the same town as me for so many years and neither one of us knew. He didn't know that a one night stand when he was 16 led to the conception of a baby. He's a great person, and I think that my mother did not know that he was my father. I think she thought that Albert was my father, and he's not the greatest person ever, and I think that's the reason why she hid it. And the reason why she had told her friend P that Albert was my father is because I think that she really believed that that man was my father, because that's who she was dating at the time that she found out she was pregnant. And I think that she opted to hide that man from me for my life. And if he had been my father, I almost kind of don't blame her. So I know it's harsh, but it is what it is. On the flip side, I am so elated that David is my father. He's a great person. And I met my Uncle Dan, who now I know is my Uncle Dan. And he's also a great person. And I've met all my brothers and sisters, and I like them a lot. And I met most of my cousins and my nieces. And like, I went from having a small circle of family to this huge circle of family. So it was a little overwhelming, but I'm better. And now, I mean, we're in May of 2018, and so all of this happened, 8-9 months ago. So I've had some time to get used to this realization. So has my brother from my mother's side, and he's, I know it hurt him in the beginning, but now he jokes and says, I only have to buy you a Christmas present worth half the value because you're half my sister. So yeah, he's a jerk. Anyway, we're also all going to Disney in the next few weeks, and I get to meet Adrian. And Adrian and I have been friends for well over a year now, as well as cousins, and I'm so excited to meet her and her son and her husband. And I'm excited for her to meet my family and for her to meet her uncles. Now we know. We did go visit her mother's grave for her, which is in Kansas. And we put flowers on her mother's grave. And she got to see her mother's grave via FaceTime for the first time. She'd only been able to see a picture of her mother's headstone from a site called Find a Grave. So it was very emotional and surreal for her to get to see real-time images of her mother's grave, and the fact that, somebody laid flowers on her grave and maybe nobody ever has before. So that was really emotional, and my dad, David, was also there, and he got to say hello and goodbye to a sister he never knew he had. So we're gonna fast forward from the sad stuff into Adrian. So now we knew Adrian's mother's background. We knew where she came from and her parents, but there was one missing thing. Adrian didn't know who her father was. So I made the magic DNA tree, and I was able to track down a man that lived in Missouri. And I won't reveal his name, because he's a private person and he probably, isn't ready for all that. But I will tell you that I was also able to find Adrian's father, and he's alive. And they do talk. They have not met yet, but they do plan on meeting within the next year. They're taking it slow. They are both kind of shy people. So I give something to Adrian that she has never had before, and that's family. So, other than the one she created with her husband and her son, of course. I gave her an uncle and 2 uncles, and I gave her cousins and a father. And not only that, but a sister. So, I can't wait until I meet her. And that kind of is coming to the end of my story. I'll let you know that every bit of the story is true. I know some of it seems just too hard to be believed. I will also tell you that there was a friend of mine at work, and I'm not going to reveal any identifying things about him, other than he'd been told his whole life that one of 2 guys was his father, and he took a DNA test because he knew that I was well versed in working ancestry. And within the first few hours, I knew that neither man was his father. And within 5 days, I had found the man who I believed to be his father. The DNA test is coming back right now. The man who I believed to be his father was elated about having a son. He only has daughters. Not that girls are less, don't think that. But, he was glad to pass on the manly line. And my coworker and this man look a lot alike. They like the same things, same mannerisms, same weird story. Me and my coworker are referred to as MPEs. And MPE stands for non-parental event. And what that means is that through some process we had discovered that somebody that we thought was our parent is not our parent. He found out 2 guys, of which he thought was his parent, was not his parent. And I found out that the man that I thought for 41 years was my father was not my father. The part that hurt the most was being lied to my whole life. But the man who I thought was my father, there was really no love lost. At one time when I was a young child, he was my hero. But that changed once I got old enough to see what was going on. And there really hasn't been much of a relationship between him and me for many, many years. Not even between him and my brother, who is his natural son. So, like I said, no love lost there. And I also got to find out that I wasn't related to his family, which for a lot of them it was a big relief, but some of them it was really sad, especially for my half-sister. Oh, I thought she was my half-sister, Allie, who I'm close to, and I had to tell Allie that she was not biologically my sister. But that doesn't matter because she's still my sister. So maybe next time you tune back, I will come back with a makeup tutorial or a makeup review or something not so serious. But I wanted to share this story with you guys because if this has happened to one of you, I wanted you to know that you're not alone. And if not, I wanted to share this very, very fascinating, it's still fascinating to me, story about how I found my real father, David Boone. And so make sure and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you're notified when I upload more videos. I try to upload at least twice a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So make sure and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you're notified when I upload videos. I upload videos at least twice a week, once on Saturday and once on Wednesday. And remember to come back and see me again. I have lots planned. I have lots and lots planned. by the end of the year. I have a huge change coming in my life. I'm currently scheduled to undergo gastric bypass in December. So I'm going to take you guys with me through, all the trials and tribulations of going through this type of procedure. And I'm doing it to extend my working career as well as extend my life. So remember to slay the day.